You know that really specific kind of silence that settles into a house after a funeral?
Oh, yeah. It's not peaceful at all. It's heavy.
Right. It has a texture to it, like static in the air.
It's the sound of a timeline that has just stopped.
Yes. And that is exactly where we are starting today. It is December 1st, late afternoon. The light is already failing.
Mm.
We are at 214 Harbor Street in Snug Harbor, Washington. Inside, the fireplace is just glowing embers, and sitting in a worn leather recliner is Rita Bishop.
And we really have to talk about that recliner. The source material makes such a point of describing it.
Oh, duct tape.
Exactly. The duct tape peeling on the armrest, the leather is cracked. It's an eyesore.
Absolutely. And Rita hates it. She's threatened to haul it to the curb a dozen times. But she can't do it.
Right.
She physically cannot make herself move it because, well, it was Tom's chair.
And this is the central visual metaphor right out of the gate. Rita is 3 years out from the tragedy that killed her husband, but she is still sitting in his chair, literally inhabiting the space he left behind.
Yeah.
The author actually describes her house not as a home, but as a museum.
That word really stuck with me. A museum? The walls are covered in photos. Everything is preserved under glass. She is basically the curator of a life that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And today, we are doing a deep dive into the 5 permissions. A Reckoning in Snug Harbor. This is book 1 of a series. And I have to say, this source material totally threw me for a loop.
How so?
Well, I went into it expecting a quiet, tear-jerking exploration of grief psychology. And don't get me wrong, it is that.
It definitely starts that way.
But then, about halfway through, it essentially drifts off the road and turns into a high-stakes murder mystery.
With poisonous plants.
Yes, poisonous plants and secret siblings. It's wild.
It is a bit of a genre bender, but I think that structure is very intentional. The author is trying to do 2 really difficult things at once here.
Which are?
First, construct a psychological framework for moving forward after loss, what they call the 5 permissions.
Right.
But simultaneously, unraveling a very literal physical threat to the protagonist's life, it makes the internal struggle external.
So our mission for this deep dive is to braid those 2 threads together. For you listening, we need to unpack that psychological toolkit because, honestly, the 5 permissions are useful for anyone navigating a hard time, not just widows.
Absolutely.
But we also have to solve the crime. Because poor Rita isn't just fighting depression, she's fighting a clock she doesn't even know is ticking.
Let's stay in that living room for a moment longer, though. The stasis of it. Rita is stuck.
She is. And she has this specific memory that just keeps looping in her head.
Yeah.
It's her late husband, Tom, singing Elvis, "Are You Lonesome Tonight?"
A classic.
But he sang it badly. He'd ham it up doing the lip curl just to make her laugh. It's such a warm memory, but the lyrics are incredibly cruel in her current context.
Are you lonesome tonight?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the question haunting her. She is incredibly lonely, but the source makes it clear she feels guilty about that loneliness.
That is a very common reaction in prolonged grief. There's this societal expectation or perhaps an internal pressure that says, after 3 years, the statute of limitations on mourning should have run out.
You should be better.
Right, you should be better.
And because she isn't better, she feels like she's failing. She feels like she's doing grief wrong. And this right here is the breaking point. The narrative describes her sliding off that duct tape chair, getting onto her knees on the cold hardwood floor, and talking to Tom's photograph.
And she asks a question that changes the entire trajectory of the story.
She asks, "Can I love again?"
She's literally asking a dead man for permission to stop being dead inside. It's heartbreaking.
It really is. And the universe answers her immediately.
With a knock at the door.
Right. And for a split second, Rita thinks, did Tom just knock? The magical thinking is so strong in that moment.
But it's not a ghost, it's Tina Morrison.
Tina is the owner of the Snug Harbor Inn. And she is a character we need to spend a minute on because she just waltzes in with fresh cinnamon rolls and a full tea service.
Yes. Tina functions as the archetype of the guide, or the sage, in this story. She's described as having ancient eyes. She appears totally harmless,
She's always drinking tea.
claims she has a hollow leg for it,
Yeah.
but she is hyper-observant. She didn't just happen to stop by.
No, she admits it later. She saw Rita's shadow through the window. She saw her drop to her knees. She knew exactly what was happening.
Because Tina is a widow, too. Her husband, Paul, died at sea years ago. So she recognizes the posture of despair. She isn't there to offer empty platitudes like, it gets better.
Thank goodness.
Right. She is there to offer a framework. She validates Rita's experience immediately, telling her, I ask my husband questions he can't answer all the time.
And this brings us to the core educational content of the source material. Teeny sits Rita down, pours this endless stream of tea, and lays out the 5 permissions.
It's important to note for you listening that these aren't stages. Not like the Kubler-Ross model.
Denial, anger, acceptance.
Exactly. Those are things that happen to you. These are permissions. They are active choices you have to grant yourself.
Which is so much harder. So let's break these down, because they are the anchor of the whole narrative.
Yeah.
The first one is permission to grieve.
Which might sound redundant. Rita has been grieving for 3 years.
That's what I thought reading it. I was like, she's got a PhD in grieving by now.
But Tine makes a really sharp distinction between suffering and grieving. Rita has been suffering, but she hasn't given herself permission to be messy.
Oh, I see.
She's been judging her grief the whole time. She thinks she's taking too long, or she's too sad, or she's burdening people.
So it's the judgment that's the problem.
Exactly. Permission to grieve means removing the should. It means accepting the anger, the numbness, and the lack of a timetable without feeling guilty about it. It's allowing the wave to hit you without apologizing for getting wet.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Okay, the second one. Permission to heal.
This is often the hardest hurdle for people who have suffered a great loss. There is a subconscious belief that healing equals forgetting.
I've felt that.
Yeah.
If I stop crying every day, does that mean I didn't love them enough? If I'm happy, am I betraying the person who isn't here to be happy?
Precisely. If the pain goes away, is the person truly gone?
Tina uses a biological metaphor here. Scar tissue.
I love this part.
Healing doesn't remove the wound. It covers it so you can survive. The wound is still there under the surface. And she specifically talks about laughter here.
Yes. She tells Rita that laughter isn't a betrayal. Tom loved her laugh. When she laughs, she's bringing a piece of him back into the room, not pushing him away.
It completely reframes happiness as a tribute rather than an insult.
Then we get to number 3, permission to be lonely.
Which really challenges that modern narrative of this strong, independent person. Rita feels ashamed that she needs people. She feels she should be self-sufficient.
We do tend to view loneliness as a weakness in our culture. Like, I should be enough for myself. Tina cuts through that with basic biology. She argues we are tribal animals. Loneliness isn't a character flaw or a spiritual failing. It's a biological signal.
Just like hunger or thirst.
Exactly. It's your brain telling you a fundamental need isn't being met. Admitting you are lonely is just admitting you are human.
Which leads right into the fourth one, which is the scary one.
Yeah.
Permission to want.
Desire is dangerous.
It is.
If you want something, you can lose it. Rita has spent 3 years wanting nothing. Not food, not company, certainly not romance. It's a defense mechanism. If you don't open the door, nothing can hurt you.
But Tina warns her that closing yourself off is a form of death. You're just a walking ghost.
You have to permit yourself to have desires, even if they make you vulnerable, and that sets up the final big permission. Permission to love again.
And this is where the author introduces the house of the heart metaphor. I thought this was the most powerful concept in the entire book.
It is the philosophical core of the story. Rita feels that loving someone new would mean evicting Tom, that there just isn't room for 2 men in her life.
Right.
Teeny explains that the heart isn't a single room with limited occupancy. You don't kick the old tenant out. You build an addition.
The heart expands. Tom keeps his room. That door is never locked. His things are never moved. But the new love gets a new room.
It changes the geometry of love from replacement to expansion. It's not A or B, it's A and B.
So Rita's sitting there, buzzing on caffeine and sugar, and these permissions actually start to crack the shell. She feels a real shift. She goes upstairs to a drawer she's been avoiding for years.
And here's where the story pivots. We think we are dealing with just the grief of a widow, but when she opens that drawer, we find an unsent letter. And we realize Rita isn't just grieving one man, she is grieving 2.
Enter Manny, or at least the memory of Manny. This letter is dated 14 years ago, written at a bus station at 4 in the morning.
The backstory here is crucial for the mystery that follows. Rita and Manny were the high school sweethearts. It was meant to be. But Manny had a mother, Evelyn Hamilton.
Evelyn is, well, she's a piece of work. She's the town matriarch, wealthy, controlling, and she absolutely despised Rita.
She didn't just dislike her, she threatened her. She told Rita that if Manny married that Bishop girl, she would destroy him. She'd pull his college funding, blacklist his career prospects, ensure he ended up with nothing.
So Rita did the noble, tragic thing. She ran away to save him. She wrote this letter saying, I'd rather miss you for the rest of my life than have you hate me 5 years from now.
It creates such a devastating contrast in her life. She had Tom, who was safe, kind, and unconditional, and she has Manny, the what if, the loose end, the love that was stolen by interference rather than death.
So she reads this letter. It's now almost 3:47 a.m. in the present day. She's processing these 5 permissions. She's finally thinking, maybe I can fix this. Maybe I can reach out. And then knock, knock, knock.
The exact same knock as before.
She thinks it's Tina coming back for her tea set. She opens the door, ready to talk. But it's not Tina.
It's a crowd. Standing on her porch in the middle of the night is her estranged father, Dan Bishop, a bunch of townspeople, and Manny.
Manny Hamilton, in the flesh,
Yeah.
gray at the temples, scarred hands looking older, but it's him. Can you imagine the emotional whiplash? You just spent an hour crying over a 14-year-old letter to this guy, and suddenly he's on your porch.
This is where the genre shifts instantly from introspection to thriller, because they aren't there for a social call. Tina steps forward, she's with them, and she drops a bomb.
A huge bomb.
She reveals that Rita's mother, Margaret, who supposedly died of cancer years ago, didn't die of cancer.
She was murdered.
Poison.
And this is where the deep dive gets a little dark. Because the weapon wasn't a gun or a knife. It was tea. Again with the tea, it's unsettling how domestic the weapon is.
Specifically, tea brewed from Datura stramonium, common name, angel's trumpet, or Jimson weed.
I looked this up. It's a real plant.
Very real and very dangerous. It contains tropane alkaloids. In high doses, it causes hallucinations, tachycardia, and death. But the source material explains that in smaller, controlled doses over time, it causes wasting, digestive failure, and confusion.
Which looks exactly like
Pancreatic cancer. It's a terrifyingly effective way to hide a murder in plain sight, especially in a small town where an autopsy might not be thorough if the cause of death seems obvious.
and everyone on that porch knows who did it.
They do. The killer is Evelyn Hamilton, Manny's mother.
The dynamic here is Shakespearean. Manny is standing there, looking at the woman he loves, the woman his mother forced away, and he has to admit, my mother killed your mother.
It's an impossible situation. He is apologizing for sins he didn't commit, but he carries the blood of the perpetrator. He's standing there with the Avengers of Snug Harbor Tine, Rita's dad, the sheriff, ready to take his own mother down.
But there's one more person in this crowd. A 19-year-old girl. She's wearing a vintage wedding dress, and she has Rita's red hair.
This is Maggie, the secret sister.
I had to reread this part twice. Rita didn't know she had a sister.
No. Maggie was born 6 months before Rita's parents married. She was given up for adoption to an aunt to avoid a scandal. But Maggie came to Snug Harbor 3 years ago looking for her birth mother, only to find Margaret was already dead.
Okay, but why on earth is she wearing a wedding dress?
It sounds bizarre, but it's actually a disguise. Maggie has been working at the local bookstore, hiding in plain sight. She wears the vintage dress as a sort of psychological armor, but also a distraction. People stare at the dress. They don't look closely at her face. If they looked at her face, they'd see Rita. They'd see the exact resemblance.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But Maggie is actually the key to the motive, right?
She is. Or rather, what she knows is the key. It all comes down to a silver pitcher.
A picture.
It sounds like a generic antique, but this pitcher is the smoking gun. It's about provenance. The pitcher was stolen from a woman named Clara Harrington, who was murdered by the Hamilton family back in 1930.
So it's a multi-generational crime family.
Essentially, possession of the pitcher proves the Hamiltons were at the scene of that original 1930 crime. Rita's mother, Margaret, found this pitcher. She figured it out. She realized it proved the Hamilton family's dark history.
And that's why Evelyn poisoned her, to keep the 1930 murder buried.
Exactly. A cover-up protecting a cover-up. And now, Evelyn is driving up from Arizona to finish the job because she knows the town is waking up. She knows Maggie is there.
So we have the setup for the climax. The Avengers are gathered, the villain is en route, but amidst all this chaos, the story circles back to the 5 permissions.
It has to, because Rita has a choice to make right there on the porch. Logic says she should run away from Manny. His family is toxic, literally toxic. His mother killed her mother. There is way too much baggage there.
But she looks at him, and she remembers permission number 5.
Permission to love again. She realizes she can separate the son from the sins of the mother. She takes his hand.
That moment is the bridge between the 2 halves of the book. It shows that the psychology isn't just theory, it's practical application under fire. She chooses connection over protection, even when it's dangerous.
And to validate that choice, Maggie pulls out one final piece of evidence. Not a picture, but a letter.
A letter from their mother, Margaret, found in the bookstore attic.
This is the emotional knockout punch of the book. Margaret wrote this letter while she was dying. She suspected she was being poisoned. She knew it was Evelyn, but she couldn't stop it in time.
But the letter isn't just an accusation, it's a permission slip.
It is. Margaret writes to Rita about the 5 permissions. She uses the exact same language Tina used.
Which means Tina didn't just make this stuff up over cinnamon rolls. She got it from Margaret.
Correct. Margaret had been discussing this philosophy with Tina before she died. In the letter, Margaret tells Rita, the heart is bigger than we think. She is reaching out from the grave to tell her daughter that it's okay to move on.
It's that validation loop. Rita felt guilty for wanting to live. But here is the victim herself saying, live, love, it doesn't betray me.
It frees her. The book ends with Rita, Manny, and her new sister Maggie standing on the porch looking at the lighthouse. They haven't defeated Evelyn yet, that's the plot of book 2, but they are united.
They've moved from that dark, quiet living room to a porch full of allies.
They have moved from stasis to action, and that is the ultimate takeaway of the source material.
So if we step back from the poisons and the secret sisters, what are we really learning here?
I think it comes back to the architecture of the heart. We are conditioned to think of love as a finite resource. If I love the new person, I must love the old person less.
The replacement theory.
Right. But the house of the heart metaphor argues that the heart is elastic. Grief is the price of love, yes. But you don't have to wait for the grief to vacate the premises before you let joy back in. They can be roommates.
You can cry for Tom and hold hands with Manny in the exact same hour.
And that complexity isn't hypocrisy, it's just being human.
Well, looking ahead, Book 2 is teased as the bond. Evelyn is arriving. That silver pitcher is still hidden somewhere in the bookstore.
And let's not forget, Maggie mentioned someone tried to serve her a cup of special tea just 3 days ago. The danger is very immediate.
I am so ready for the sequel. But for now, we leave Rita standing on the porch, no longer waiting for permission. She's taken it.
A powerful place to leave her.
Before we sign off, here's a thought for you listening. We talked about those locked rooms in the heart. Is there a room in your own life, a desire, a person, a memory that you've kept locked up because you thought opening it would betray your past?
And if there is, what would happen if you just tried the handle?
Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Until next time.
I see the memories on the wall, but in my heart I'll store them all. Your scarf still hangs by the back door. 6 autumns past, I haven't moved it once more. I hear your laugh in empty rooms, like wind through half-closed blinds at noon. Wore my sorrow like worn-out shoes, too tired now to lose again. Then your fingers brush the frame, not pulling back, just saying my name. And in that touch, no grand decree, just quiet space for you and me. Do I have permission to love again, to let this fragile hope begin? Not hide behind what broke apart, but hold your hand with open heart. Do I have permission from you?